Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football presented by BKCW. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined daily by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking, get all your questions in as we wrap up the work week here. And guys, I know it's Coffee and Football, but let's actually start with women's basketball, because they had a pretty big win last night. Number 7 Texas defeats number 17 Tennessee 80-76.
These wins matter. I mean, because Texas is number 2 in NCAA.net, and this is another quad 1 win. And these are big games. All these are big games for Texas right now because they are sitting in a really good spot to get a number 1 seed in the women's tournament. And if you get a number 1 seed, your odds to make the Final Four go up. And this is a team that right now is, again, sitting 2 in NCAA.net. This is a quad 1 win, a big win for the program last night within this season as they move to 19-2 and will continue to be sitting in that NCAA net number 2 position behind South Carolina for the fight for a number 1 seed. Bobby.
You know what? I watched the game last night. Tough, hard-fought win, too. You can take I know you focused a little bit there, Jerry, about the seeding of the NCAA tournament and what it means, and you're right about all that. But what I saw were 2 teams that were really putting everything they had out on the floor on just about every possession from the second half on. So third quarter, fourth quarter, I mean, every possession was meaningful because it was going back and forth. I think the largest lead for the Longhorns at any point in that game was 5 points. The largest for Tennessee was 6. And so you really had a back and forth, every possession mattered type of game. Maddie Booker came up with a steal with about 2 minutes left. The score was tied. She went in and scored. Rory Harmon finished it off at the line, sinking 2 free throws to give Texas a 4-point win. It was as good a women's college basketball game at this point in the season and meaningful, in my opinion, in the same fashion as you're going to see. They really, both teams really played hard last night. Happy for the Horns. They pulled it out. Coach Vic Schaefer and crew. Rory Harmon's 100th win, Blake, is that right?
No, 100th game.
100th game. Yeah. So Longhorns they got a little something right now. I don't know if they're the best team in the country. South Carolina looks like that, but I think they're trying to get there. It looks like they fought. It felt like they were really fighting hard last night. I'll just put it that way.
For sure. Well, guys, now let's jump over to football, more specifically recruiting. Coaches are on the road and casting a wide net around the United States, I guess you could say. Jerry, what do you got for us?
Well, Jeff Banks went recruiting bonkers yesterday in the Tar Heel State. He offered 4 guys. Look, and we've talked about this, or I mentioned this on a show a while back. Somebody was asking about defensive line in the 26 class. And at that time, I said, North Carolina is loaded at defensive line in 2026, loaded with edge kids, big kids, just all around. Like the state of Alabama, for a smaller population, say compared to a Texas, California, Florida, Georgia, those states that just boom every year with prospects. State of Alabama had a class like that, I think 2 years ago, 2024 maybe it was, where they just had a ton of defensive linemen per capita for what they normally have even in that state. North Carolina is a one of the hidden gems for defensive line producing states. Ask Mac Brown that one. And they have a loaded class in 2026. It's not an area, Bobby, Texas has recruited much over the years, but this is part of the game now is if you're going to be a national program, if there's a state that has a great class at a singular position, you have to be willing to go get in the fight. And Jeff Banks went out there yesterday and tried to get Texas in the fight. Rodney Dunham is one of the top edge prospects in the country. Then there's Aiden Harris and his brother Andrew Harris. And then there's the kid out of Ballantine Ridge, Damian Lewis's brother, Damod Lewis. Damian Lewis, this is Dunham right here. Damian Lewis was an offensive lineman on the LSU national championship team in 2019, originally from Mississippi. The brother lives with him, so he went to high school in the Seattle area when Damian Lewis was the Seahawks last year, 2 years ago. Then he signed to the Carolina Panthers, so they moved down to the Charlotte area this year. So DeMond Lewis actually moved into a state that already was loaded at D-line. But it's an area that, look, Bobby, it's always been about Clemson, or not always, but in recent years it's been about Clemson and Georgia and Tennessee outside the in-state schools. And South Carolina a little bit in the mix. Florida's tried, but it's really been Georgia and Tennessee and Clemson is the out-of-state schools that have made a dent in that state. So it's good to see Texas go in and get in the fight when there's a ton of D linemen in that state.
Yeah, my piece on this is that, and I wrote it yesterday briefly, it's just broadening your scope.
Yep.
This is part of, you can do this really easily when you've been to back-to-back national semifinals. If you don't do that and you're just an 8-5 ball club and you're just another name that's coming through the school, you've been to back-to-back national semifinals, all of a sudden you're gonna have a chance at least one of these guys, like a real chance, Jerry. I don't know which one it'll be, but that's just my guess, right? When that's what Ohio State has done for years. It really is. They don't subsist on players just from Ohio. And so I feel like broadening their scope beyond Georgia and Florida, which they're recruiting hard now, right? We've documented that. Broadening it into another state like North Carolina makes sense. Into Louisiana always a little bit. We'll see where else they go. California.
We're seeing Las Vegas with Johnny Nansen. I think we're going to see Salt Lake City with Johnny Nansen a little bit as well if they have somebody that's up Texas alley, to your point. But we talked about it with Johnny Nansen, broadening that scope, Bobby. People think of just SoCal with him, but he's recruited Las Vegas for years and years and years. So if there's a really good player, he's going to try to get Texas in, like Jet Washington in 2026, the athlete, big safety. So that's what you have to do. I don't think it's everywhere around the country. Some people have asked about Virginia, 757 area. Look, we'll see. North Carolina is more in that SEC region. I mean, you can't be everywhere to everything. There's just not enough I call it just foot traffic available for the Texas staff, because they have to spend a lot of time in Georgia and Florida along with Texas, and they're going to recruit out west and in Arizona. But it's a good sign that they're going in here, because I hadn't seen any signs of them going into North Carolina. Now, Kenny Baker had offered Noah Clark, D lineman from the Raleigh area, the Research Triangle area. I think he's actually from Durham. He actually showed up at the Georgia game this year with his family. But that was more of a specific offer I think somebody reached out to Texas, say, hey, Noah Clark will have interest. This is Texas saying, we're going out and getting in the fray.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say this, Southwest Airlines is your friend from that Durham, Raleigh area. I feel like the whole idea here is you got to go where the players are. There's no doubt about that. 4 offers in a single day, though, to a single state, where in my time, I don't think Texas has ever signed anybody from the state of North Carolina, Jerry.
No.
In my 30 years. And for Texas in a single day to go offer scholarships to 4 guys in that state, I think that says a lot. Yeah. And that's when I say broadening your scope or broadening your recruiting map is a better way to put it, I think. That's expanding your recruiting map, all right. 4 offers in a single day.
And by the way, Dave Atchley, this is a good point. Just took Travis Shaw, former 5-star, out of the state of North Carolina in the portal. So good call. Hey, David Rawls, this is a great memory recall. PJ Tucker from the state of North Carolina in basketball. If y'all have never heard the PJ Tucker story, real quick before we get into junior day, this is
give us this one, Jerry, because this is a great one.
Yeah. So Frank Haith, that back at Texas assistant coach, he's from the Elon, North Carolina area, or out in that area. He went to Elon University, I believe, is where he went, but either Elon or High Point. So he had a lot of ties. He was assistant at Wake Forest, and PJ Tucker was in that Research Triangle area. He was like the player of the year there. But he didn't play on one of the major AAU teams at the time. He also had some academic issues. He didn't really care about school. So Frank Haith went to Rick Barnes, said, there's a kid we need to take. We need to offer him. We need to take him. And Rick Barnes trusted Frank Haith enough that PJ Tucker committed and signed with Texas before Rick Barnes ever watched him play in person. That's trust in a staff. He went on to become the Big 12 Player of the Year and is, 17 years in the NBA now? So Big 12 Player of the Year, Rick Barnes trusted his assistant, his top assistant, and took the kid without ever seeing him play in person. That's very rare in this industry.
Love it. Love it. And you know what? Look, I mean, Texas wasn't going to get the bluest of blue chips from North Carolina.
No.
You know, so good stuff. He has had an unbelievable career, by the way.
Unbelievable.
I mean, talk about a guy that, I mean, somebody wrote in the chat, he couldn't shoot. When at Texas, I mean, his range was 5 feet.
Yeah.
And now he's grown into this great back.
When we say it's maximizing your talent and running your own race and it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, he's like the ultimate guy. He had to go to Europe. He had to learn to be a 3-and-D player, and he built a game that fit the NBA style. He got to the NBA eventually, even though he's a second-round pick. He had to go overseas to build his game. Comes back and has the career he's had. I think he has 7 million pairs of shoes, by the way. But just that's the running your own race. That is building, maximize. This guy's maximized his talent about as well as any athlete that's come through the 40, because it didn't go straight to the pros. It didn't go straight to the NBA. He was drafted. He couldn't make it the NBA. He had to go overseas for 5-6 years and build an NBA game. That's wanting to maximize your talent too. Look at those places. They weren't all great places to go build a game.
Donetsk.
He wasn't playing to the top of the Euro League at the time.
No, I'm trying to. I mean, I see one Greece, one I think Ukraine, one Spain, one Germany.
Yeah, and
then he ends up with the Phoenix Suns. I mean, look at that. That is a hats off to you, PJ Tucker.
Yeah,
seriously. I mean, hats off to you. How did we get sidetracked on PJ Tucker? I guess the state of North Carolina.
The state of North Carolina did it. We had to talk about the best Texas has recruited from North Carolina.
Yeah, it's a basketball player. Yeah.
Speaking of North Carolina, we've actually had a few people ask this, and then someone just put in a super chat. Could the North Carolina offers be a Mac Brown effect / Intel?
No, nothing to do with that. It's just that it's a great year for defensive linemen in that state. And when Texas has been out evaluating the best D linemen around the country, it's not on the interior, it's not a great year nationally for defensive linemen. Not on the surface. There will be some guys pop up, there always are, but not at this time compared to some past classes. So you may have to go outside areas you've recruited before to try to get in on those best D linemen. And edge, there's 2 or 3 good ones in Texas, but there's not maybe the elite must-have guys. I mean, Jamarian Carlton's really good. KJ Ford's really good. There may be better guys outside the state. So maybe you take an in-state guy and you go out of state. But North Carolina's they got them at every position. That's a weak side in, the hybrid linebacker, rush in, this power in, the interior D lineman, a couple of guys that play over the ball. That state just has them all this year. They just got a lot of them. Pretty good year to be Bill Belichick if you're trying to build a program, by the way.
All right, well, we got Junior Day to talk about. But first, Bobby, tell folks how they can escape the insurance trap.
Yeah, over at BKCW, all season long, you've heard us talk about how Longhorn-owned BKCW helps you and your business escape the insurance trap. You know the drill. Renewal time rolls around. You scramble for quotes and end up stuck with a higher price. BKCW helps break that cycle. They equip you with a wide variety of tools like safety training programs, a dedicated risk consultant to save you time, make your employees safer, and show insurance carriers that your business is a good fit. Because let's face it, when it comes to premiums, most factors are out of your control. BKCW focuses actually on what you can control, which is your risk profile. If you want to learn more about what BKCW can provide you and your business, go to bkcw.com or send an email to info@bkcw.com to get started and get the support you deserve. With BKCW, the goal is simple: help make you and your employees safer so you can save money and hopefully experience fewer claims. That's info@bkcw.com or 512-250-5055.
Thank you, Bobby. And as I said, guys, Junior Day, of course, this weekend. We're finding out more and more visitors as every day goes on. Jerry, what do you have there for us?
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the huddle of one Christian Rhodes right now. And we're going to talk about some different positions throughout the show. So ask your questions about if you got something about positions within Junior Day. This is Christian Rhodes, though, running back. So we've talked a little bit about him on a couple of shows before. He told me yesterday, Coach Choice came by the school. He's going to be at Junior Day. Now, this guy was not on the radar at the start of the year, guys. Since then, Miami, TCU, SMU, Arkansas, Ole Miss, a couple of others have offered him. But he's 6'1", 6'1 and a quarter, 200, 205 pounds. He's got the speed. I expect him to run probably in the 10.8s on the track, 10.9 on the track this spring, maybe in the 10.8s. But he had a big junior season at Richardson Lake Highlands. Obviously, that's a name familiar to Texas fans. Phil Dawson, Kent Perkins, a couple of others have been through Lake Highlands that played at Texas and were really good players. But I'm not sure I've got him on offer watch, but I'm not sure I don't at the same time. You know about Javion Osborne. You know about KJ Edwards. Also, Isaiah Lee, more in that 5'10", 195-pound back, is coming in from Lancaster to Junior Day. But this is a bigger back, Bobby. Amari Latimer's been the top bigger back on the board, but I think the emergence of Micah Rhodes in the state this year has given Texas a guy that they really like from an in-state perspective that's going to be a 6'1", 6'2", 220-pound back that has enough speed.
Yeah, it looks like he's the guy, like Jerry, somebody made it somewhat similar to Cedric Baxter size-wise.
Yeah.
Right, and we noticed, and we've talked about Texas needing a bigger back. Well, Javion Osborne looks like he's a clear number one for Texas, or at least one of the ones that Texas wants. But he's not going to be a 225, 230-pound guy. This guy might be that eventually, right? He's got the size. If Texas goes searching for a big back, I think this might be, Jerry, I think you hit on it. This might be the guy.
Yeah, if there's going to be one in state, it's going to be him. And we know Texas loves Amari Latimer. By the way, Amari Latimer's not coming in this weekend because he has high school basketball. He's a really good basketball player, can really shoot it. And his team's really good. They have games this weekend, but he will be back on campus in the spring. But this kid's really impressive now. I mean, he's not a finished product by any means either, but he kind of burst onto the scene. And he had a big year. He was the MVP of that district. Look, Brian Jones follows up with a question. We see a lot of highlights of backs running and breakaway. What about blocking capabilities? That's more of a learned trait unless you're very instinctive with it. I think a Cedric Baxter was extremely instinctive in that regard. Like a James Simon's going to come in ahead of the game in terms of pass purpose. His father coached 15 years of college football and played the position. There's some coaches that, Coach Surratt does a good job at Carthage. His kids have to pass pro some, but Bobby, a lot of times at the high school level, you're not going to be asked to do that a lot because you're such a playmaker. You're going to be in routes. You're going to be an option on every single play to go score touchdowns. So it's something they have to learn at the next level.
So many of these guys just turn around and get handed the ball. So, I mean, look, you're the MVP of the district. You ain't blocking all that much.
Yeah.
It's not – high school football is not as complicated as college football, guys. I mean, 3rd and 4, it's a run in high school football. 3rd and 4 in college football, you need a pass block. There's a difference, especially if you're a big-time running back, right? 3rd and 4 is a run in high school if you're a big-time running back. 3rd and 4 in the college game, it doesn't matter how good you are. It's likely a pass. So those nuances get taught later. As long as they're physical, Jerry, and willing, that's the key piece. if you shy from contact, then you're not going to be an effective blocker ever.
And probably the best instance of that at Texas I've seen. And obviously, Bobby, you covered it. Ricky Williams was a fullback in high school. He never pass pro'd, but he picked it up and was probably as good as Texas ever had in pass pro at the running back position. But he never pass pro'd in high school because he ran fullback in a wing tee. He played fullback in a wing tee.
And, I will say this. Ricky Williams and Priest Holmes simultaneously, those may be the two best pass protecting running backs Texas has ever had. And they were on the same team. I mean, those dudes could – John Makovic one time said, look, I don't know. I know it's not a big deal, but those two could pass protect as well as anybody possibly could. So, yeah, I hear you, Jerry. It's a learned trait. Nick Saban was on a podcast about a week ago, I guess, and he was talking about Derrick Henry in high school. And Derrick Henry arrives at Alabama as a freshman. Now, we all know Derrick Henry. He rushed for like 4,000 yards his senior year. Something.
Yeah, he has the national record.
Yeah, something incredible, right? Well, what was interesting about Derrick Henry, he goes, they were doing a pass drill, and I believe it was Lane Kiffin was the offense coordinator at Alabama at the time, or somebody. He didn't know. He didn't say who. But anyways, they were doing a pass drill, and Derrick Henry's a true freshman. And Derrick Henry's getting yelled at for not being in pass pro. And he's getting yelled at so bad by the offensive coordinator about not knowing what to do that Nick Saban said he went over and put his arm around Derrick Henry's neck and said it was going to console him a little bit because he knew he had a great player, right? And he didn't want to lose his concentration. And Derrick Henry just said, Coach, all I ever did is they turned around and tossed me the ball in high school. I don't know about any of this other stuff.
He has his national rushing record for career. He never passed pro. They never asked him to do that.
Yeah.
He 40 times a game.
Yeah, and so he goes, just have a little patience with me, Coach.
Yeah.
It's like all you ever done. And so that's what happens. But as long as they're willing,
Yeah.
and physical, that is the biggest piece. I've seen unwilling guys.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? They don't play a lot, ultimately. They don't play a lot.
Couple more follow-up questions to the running backs. Ivory Martin says, is the plan to always take two backs every year?
We can't say 100% always, but vast majority, yes. And Sark wants them to be different backs. That's the thing, which it makes it interesting. So, you can we can talk about it, but hey, you can go watch the huddle and say, okay, this guy's similar size, the way they run, and that's different. That's why I brought up Micah Rhodes, I should say. He is different than Javian Osborne and KJ Edwards and Isaiah Lee, the kid from Lancaster coming in that Texas hasn't offered but has interest in. He's different than those guys, and he's more of the Amari Latimer. And we were talking about the other day, who is going to be the next back that Texas has to go recruit another big back, another guy that fits that mold other than Amari Latimer. Because look, Amari Latimer, Texas has been doing well with him, but you don't know until, you got to keep recruiting other guys. But Rhodes and Amari Latimer mirror each other. If you take two different types of backs in a class, Sark's probably not taking 2 5'9", 190-pound backs in the same class. I mean, if you look at the last class, Ricky Stewart and James Simon are different players, different frames, different players. And if you've kind of looked, that's what I think you're going to see Texas continue to do.
So hey, Jerry, just to be clear, the in-state backs that you're talking about, we've known about Javian Osborne for a while. We've known about KJ Edwards from Carthage. Now we have Christian Rhodes from Lake Highlands and Isaiah Lee from Lancaster.
Yeah.
Are those the ones that you're aware of that Texas is really looking at hard right now in state for 2026?
Yeah, they are. We'll see if anybody else pops up, but those are the main guys.
So 1 from East Texas, 3 from the Metroplex.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Is there a big time running back down in Houston at all, or Central Texas? I thought the kid from Cibolo Steele, was it Steele?
Yeah, Jonathan Hatton, who was a one-time OU commit, he's really good, but Texas they haven't shown any interest. And I actually double checked with him this week, and no junior day. So I don't for whatever reason, he's just not their guy.
Got it.
And
good player.
Talking about Latimer and Osborne, Drew Lockhart says, do you think it's, possible that Sark could sign both of them do you think that 2 5-star backs as talented as them would commit to the same program in the same class?
Not out of the question, because the running back position's changed. It's no longer I want 40 carries and I want to be the man. These kids, these people understand that, look, you need to have tread on your tire when you go to the NFL. Carrying the ball 35, 40 times in college isn't the goal anymore. So I do think it's possible, especially the way Sark uses his running backs in the passing game as well. So it gives those guys opportunities to get more touches without necessarily carrying it 30 times in a game. There's going to be some instances. We saw it with Trey Wisner this year, but that was due more to necessity out of injury and who you're playing. Because Jaden Blue's not going to carry the ball 20 times against Texas A&M's front. That's not going to happen. So that was more out of necessity. But the way Sark rotates backs, the way both they all play with versatility in the offense, I think it's possible. I mean, look, they weren't 5-star guys, so that's the one thing. Maybe leave the 5-star on the table. But what about 2 top 100 players in the country at running back? Can you get 2 of those in the same class? Absolutely. Penn State has 2 right now. They're playing Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. And Katron Allen may have been a little underrated. He may have been like 150, but I saw him at IMG. He was a top 100 player in the country. The rankings were wrong there. But Penn State signed 2 guys like that, different types of backs in the same class, but 2 of the top running back prospects in the country. It can happen.
Hey, Jerry, what about the guy at Texas High that's committed to Oregon, Tredarian Ball? He's one of the elite of elite, right? And he's already committed to Oregon out of Texarkana.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good year for running backs in state. But I reached out to him a couple 3 weeks ago. He hadn't heard anything from Texas. I think he made that decision. He's a kid that's from Arkansas that moved into Texas High. Really good player, but it's a deep year at running back. Everybody, if teams evaluate the state well, there should be 6 or 7 teams that get a really good back out of this class.
And one super chat regarding running backs while we're on the subject. Archmania, can a big back like that crush the dime defenses teams are loving to put out against us with the 3 high safeties?
They've done it for they did it for Ohio State this year. I mean, I think that's the idea, right? Is you need bigger backs sometimes to run downhill. We'll see, and it's not just the running backs either, Archmania. But Texas needs a bigger back for short yardage. There's just no doubt about that. We saw that too often in 2024. But they don't need a bigger running back that can't be good, too. I mean, look, Trey Wisner is a really, really good running back. You're not going to put in just any old Joe to replace him, even on the goal line. So these guys have to be top caliber guys. So it's not just about being big. It's about being big and good. But yeah, they need a bigger back to complement Trey, in my opinion. And we'll see. They're going to go after him. We'll see what happens with Cedric Baxter and his rehab. I think that's so ultra important for the 2025 season for Texas as well.
Good stuff. And one other recruiting super chat before we move on. Cinco de Mayor. Jerry, does Texas have any interest in 27 quarterback Colton Nussmeier out of Flower Mound Marcus? He has offers from Georgia, LSU, Michigan, among many others.
I know Texas is evaluating the interest level. I haven't heard that specifically. I'm gonna be a broken record on this. I think Gunnar Rivers is the guy to watch for Texas to offer in 2027 if it makes sense for the Rivers family, if they see a path at Texas. It may be a class that may not make sense for them with Diabell coming in 2026, KJ Lacey from the same area in 2025. We'll see if that makes sense. But I think Gunnar Rivers is a no-brainer offer for Texas. A.J. Milwee went to watch him this year during the season when he went to see KJ Lacey. So Texas has shown a lot of interest in Gunnar Rivers. And we'll just have to see if Coach Rivers now thinks it makes sense for Gunnar in that quarterback room at Texas. NC State and Auburn were the first 2 known offers for Gunnar Rivers. Peyton Houston, one of the 2 or 3 early offers at quarterback in 2027 from June Elite Camp. He's at Shreveport Evangel. He will be on campus. He told us 2 days ago, I believe it was, he will be on campus for the junior day, even though he's a sophomore, for the junior day. So Texas continues to have interest in Peyton Houston as well. And Nussmeier, the Nussmeier recruitment is very similar to the Rivers recruitment. Obviously, his father's an NFL coach. They're going to be looking for a situation that makes sense for them, Bobby. It doesn't – with Diabell and KJ Lacey, and everybody says, well, other people have good quarterbacks too. Yeah, they do, but these guys are looking at it maybe from a different standpoint. We'll have to see on that.
Yeah, and for those unaware, Colton Nussmeier is the brother of Garrett Nussmeier, the quarterback at LSU. So just put that out there too. So,
Bobby Petronic asks, Evangel starting to become a thing again? They're not ever going to be what they were since Calvary Baptist opened. That's where James Simon played years ago when that Evangel thing kind of split. But Evangels, they're always going to have 2 or 3 D1 kids every year, but they may just not be able to overwhelm. Like when I used to go up there when Mac was recruiting Evangel, Bobby, I'm sure you went through there too.
Oh, yeah.
They had 8 to 10 D1 kids on some of those teams. And everybody thought of it as a quarterback factory because of all the sons that came through there, Coach Booty's kids, and a couple of the others. Brock Berlin's dad coached. And they played in that 9-yard shotgun, which was kind of crazy to see back in the day. They were ahead of their time. But they don't have that much talent. It's more dispersed since Calvary Baptist opened, and that thing kind of split years ago.
I have to say this. I went and saw Stevie Lee, who is on our Monday afternoon shows now.
Yeah.
Back in the day at Shreveport Evangel. That's how far that goes back. And they did used to have a lot of players. Yes. All right, guys. Jerry, it's time for you to tell folks about Mando. Let's talk here, bud.
Oh, well, man, it's it's Grundle talk, baby, on a Friday. Who doesn't want to do that? Mando is the whole body deodorant, safe to use anywhere on your body, your pits, your balls, thigh folds, belly buttons, and that butt crack, and your feet. Created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. It's clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours, man. That sounds good to me. Solid deodorant stick, formulated and powered by mandelic acid to stop odor before it starts. Spray deodorant, aluminum-free, and ideal for the hard-to-reach places. Don't start looking around for your hard-to-reach places. You know where they are. All products, baking soda-free and paraben-free. Choose from a variety of fresh scents like bourbon leather. You want that with a cigar, right? Clover Woods, Mount Fuji, and Pro Sport, which is my favorite. Clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. 12 hours. This is very key in this read. 12 hours after a shower, the average man's Grundle odor was a level 5 out of 10. With Mando, the average Grundle odor level is a 0 out of a 10. And for those guys in the chat, if you want to be one of the guys they tested on, I don't know about that. I don't know how you go get your Grundle tested by Mando. That's another ad read or question and answer. Want to try America's #1 whole body deodorant formula? Right now, you can find them at Walmart, Target, and other retailers across the country. For the best deals, go to shopmando.com. And when you go to shopmando.com, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That code, on Texas, all caps, at shopmando.com. That's 40% off your starter pack. Keep your Grundle smelling good.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate that. And also appreciate Rocket Money, because you sign up for something, you forget about it after the trial period ends, then you're charged month after month after month. The subscriptions are there, but you're not using them. Don't worry, you're not alone. I do it. Everyone else does it too. In fact, 85% of people have at least one paid subscription going unused every single month. Thanks to Rocket Money, though, I can see all of my subscriptions in one place and cancel the ones I'm not using anymore, and that helps me save money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending, and it helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. And the subscriptions part is what's absolutely awesome about Rocket Money. You see all of them in one place. You know exactly where your money's going. And if you don't want them anymore, they help you cancel them. So very easy to use, very efficient. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions. saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions, reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Just go to rocketmoney.com/game on today. That's rocketmoney.com/game on, GAMEON. Well, yesterday we found out the most valuable college football programs, according to Dr. Ryan Brewer out of IU Columbus. Ohio State leading the pack here, $1.957 billion with the B, followed by Texas at $1.897 billion, and then Michigan and Georgia are your 3 and 4. I don't know what happened to 5 on that list or where it went, but
that's interesting.
Didn't notice it until just now. Or
5
7.
must be on probation with a show cause. Who would that be?
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, non-public.
Yeah. My thought on this, and just looking at it, Ohio State almost $2 billion valuation, Texas almost $2 billion. You look at this list, and I'll just play a little thought process. Look at 9 and 10. Okay, 9 is A&M, 10 is OU. Okay, Texas is 2 chief rivals, I guess is fair to say. Add those two numbers together, and you still don't get Texas.
Yeah.
Something to be thinking about that. The other thing that's interesting, Jerry, is where the high end or the perceived high end SEC schools actually are. Alabama's won 12, 13, 14 national championships.
Yeah.
Yet still only number 11. And that's because they're in the state of Alabama, frankly. And not really a major metro, doesn't have a state with a huge population and a huge enormous fan base that it can actually tap into, like the state of Texas and the University of Texas does. Florida lower than I thought too. Look at that. Only 7.
That's the one that surprised me a little bit.
Yeah,
I figured they'd be in the top 10.
They do have that fan base.
Yeah,
and that potential size. Maybe they've been down so much lately, though.
Yeah,
that's hit into their number. But Texas number 2 overall. I think Michigan's probably going to go down a little bit. Frankly, this was done coming off of last year's national championship too. So we'll see how it all looks.
And by the way, on that list, somebody mentioned it. 7's probably USC.
Yep, it's private schools.
Yeah, private schools.
Right.
Auburn. When we talk, we don't get into a lot of SEC talk traditionally on this chat, but I've always said that. Auburn's probably the most underrated college program in the country in a lot of ways because they've had more success than people probably think they have. They have a unbelievable recruiting geography where they sit 2.5 hours from Atlanta, so an hour and 45 minutes to when their talent starts in Atlanta. There's so much talent in South Georgia. They're close to Florida. They can go west into the Mississippi JUCOs for years. That they can get into North Carolina. We talked about Aiden and Andrew Harris, 2 of those 2026s that Texas offered yesterday. Auburn is considered the favorite for those kids going into junior days. They're Ohio State. But Auburn is one of those schools that's, won a national title with Cam Newton, played for another one. They've had a little more success if you aren't like a history buff of SEC than you would think when you just hear the name. And they have a great home field. It'll be a fun place to play in a couple of years.
I'm intrigued somewhat by look, those are all SEC Big Ten teams.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, obviously, there's only 12 teams on that list, and they go down to 20 essentially. I would be interested in Florida State and Clemson have to be the only 2 college football programs in the top 20 that aren't in the SEC or Big Ten. That right?
Yeah.
Other than Notre Dame, Clemson and Florida State. I'm going to go look that up. If anybody else has access to this, let us know. But I don't see, Oklahoma State, Kansas State's not going to be in there, Texas Tech, Baylor. What are those programs worth right now? BYU might be in there. BYU or Utah might be in there.
Somebody said Penn State's a glaring omission. I would agree with that.
Yeah, they're in there somewhere. You just don't know where. They could be 5 or 7. Jerry, actually, I would probably say Penn State's ahead of it. USC.
You would think.
Yeah, they have 10,000 people in their stadium and sell it out every time.
Clemson,
Blake?
Clemson is actually at 27th in value at $439 million.
What's Florida State at?
Below that.
I don't know.
I'm not seeing it
FSU. I saw that list. FSU is below Clemson, I believe, or 2 spots ahead of Clemson. They're right in that area, or 2 spots below. It's right there.
Are 5 and 7 are 5 and 7 Notre Dame and Penn State, or Penn State and Notre Dame? Like,
well, the article that I found that on doesn't actually. I'm looking for the entire list.
Gotcha.
So,
all right.
let me
come back to it. My piece on it, though, the one thing I want to point out is just how valuable Texas is as a franchise. We all know it intuitively, I think. But when someone that's a finance professor tries to line it out like this, it gets pretty glaring when Texas theoretically is worth more than its 2 chief rivals combined. That's pretty strong stuff.
Hey, here's one that I think will be surprising that I found from another article, even though I still haven't found the whole list. The most valuable program that's not from the 2 conferences that you mentioned is actually Kansas.
But that's basketball, though. It's not football.
So, well, yeah, that's true.
It's basketball.
They land at 17 on the overall.
That makes sense. Yeah. A good alumni base, long-time strong program. Not necessarily in football.
No, that is football. That is football. Yeah, Kansas.
Wow. So 1 Big 12 team
in the top 20.
Yeah, well, you're now in a conference of your peers, is what that means to me.
Man, crazy.
Yep.
All right. One other thing that we need to look at, guys, we haven't even talked about this season because football is just, all gas, no brakes, I guess you could say, is the Directors Cup. And Texas has entered the top 10. And I was looking at this earlier. Obviously we got a long way to go. Texas will have a lot of spring sports. So they're projected to finish very high. But right now they are officially in the top 10, Bobby, with 269 points.
Yeah, it's with the 4th place finish. Dr. Brett Wilkinson, who joins us every so often, we'll have him on when this gets deeper into the season. He put this out yesterday. Texas now tied for 10th with Wisconsin, but the spring sports will matter. The basketball teams, it will matter. Texas ranked number 1 or 2 in softball. Texas men's swimming and diving is ranked number 1. There's a lot of stuff going on the 40 acres that we'll find out whether or not Texas goes there. Somebody had mentioned this, and it's the prediction is that it will likely come down to Stanford and Texas yet again. Those will probably be the final 2 at the end of the day here.
And I'm looking at his Twitter that he actually posted an update an hour ago. He said Stanford is on track to score 1,299.75 points. He did say that Texas could potentially score 1,359. So,
yep,
potentially.
Yeah, it's going to depend how they finish. I mean, Texas has so many top 4 finishes, whether it's women's rowing, right? And crew, that sort of stuff. You just have to wait and see how everything fleshes out. But it's something I wanted to give an update on today because it's something that we will look forward to in about 2 months when those things start coming in. Baseball could have a big impact on that. Texas baseball got very few points last year. Hopefully it adds a few points this year.
We got a super chat here from Jack. Thank you, Jack. He says, Blake, buy some burgers for Colt. Tell him OTF is proud of him. Well, thank you, Jack. I appreciate that. I'm sure he would definitely take him up on the whole burgers deal for sure. Let's see. We got some more questions, and we still got to talk about Junior Day a little bit more. But one question that I've seen asked a few times, hey, Jerry, do we have any highs, and could we have more after this weekend?
Yes and yes. But I'm not – when things go public, I don't know. But I do think we'll come out of this weekend with 2 or 3 guys probably telling Texas, I'm I'm going to be at Texas, but that doesn't mean anything's going public because Sark does not. You don't want these guys to go public and then a month later say, hey, I'm going to take all 5 of my official visits. You know what? If you trust your relationship with kids, say, hey, man, I'm going to go through the process, but I'm going to be here. Does that mean you're going to get all those guys? No. They probably hit on 80 to 90% of those guys that tell them they're coming. Probably 90 when you're winning a lot, but not. I don't think you want guys to go public unless they're done with the process.
I agree with that, by the way. I mean, what value of it is it to the team to tie you up with somebody if they're going to go visit somewhere else?
Yeah.
At that point, it's like you're engaged to be married but still dating other women. I mean, it makes no sense. You know, you're not really engaged at that point. But we'll see. I mean, at the same time, there are outliers or exceptions to that rule.
And talking about recruiting, but about the portal as well. And a lot of people, Bobby, are asking about the Notre Dame offensive linemen that have entered the portal. If you expect Texas to get involved there, like Casey, for example, we've had numerous people ask, though. Is there any traction with them in Texas?
Yeah, it's the starting center and starting guard for Notre Dame. Both went in the portal. The starting guard had actually gotten beaten out early in the year, and then he replaced a guy that got injured. It would be interesting to me if Texas went after either of those guys, given the fact that, frankly, the Emmanuel Pregnon was a little bit of an outlier, the USC offensive guard, because we're talking about a guy that was second team All Big Ten. People see him as a second or third round draft choice. They don't see that for the 2 guys from Notre Dame. That being said, would I be surprised, completely floored if Texas went after either of them? No, I would not, because Texas is going to look for depth and starting experience in the portal. That's what they have done historically under Steve Sarkisian, regardless of position. I would tell you that the thing that I would wait on here is to see if we hear anything. I haven't heard anything behind the scenes yet. And that Sam Pendleton committed to Tennessee, but he wasn't one of the 2 starters, Glenn. It was Kogan and golly, I can't remember the other guy's name right now, but those 2, I haven't heard Texas getting involved yet. Doesn't mean they won't.
Hey, I want to go back to something because somebody commented, not calling you out, but it's kind of like, this is the thing with Auburn. Daddy Trill said, sorry, Auburn sucked for a long time. But here's if you do your research, this is what I was talking about. No, they have the 12th most win of Power 5 teams since 2012. You know who's behind them? I mean, Oregon's 1 win ahead of them. You know who's behind them? Tennessee, Michigan, Nebraska. I mean, you go down the list, Clemson, Penn State, Florida State. No, they haven't sucked. Notre Dame, less wins. Arkansas, you just go down the list. Auburn is an underrated program. People just if you don't know the history, you don't know it. Since the 2000s, they've been better than a lot of programs you'd think have been better.
They've won a national championship in the last 15 years.
And played for another one.
Yep. Very true. Okay.
The problem is, Jerry, completely overshadowed by Alabama.
Exactly.
I mean, just completely overshadowed.
Yeah.
David Williams says, Jerry, it was good seeing you mention Dylan Berryman in the Junior Day video yesterday. But regarding Jamarian Carlton, do you think he will grow into a defensive tackle and not remain at defensive end?
He's got more of the Xena frame, so doubtful. He's going to be more of that 6'4", 6'5", 250, 255-pound guy. So probably not. I see him as an edge player all the way.
And then some more questions here for you, Jerry. This one from Antoine. Have you seen 2025 Oak Ridge wide receiver James Scott?
Yeah, he's a guy that's blowing up. His junior tape is really good. And I say blowing up, I mean Arizona State, Kansas State, Arkansas, programs like that have been through Oak Ridge High and Conroe that have seen him, have offered him. He's gaining interest from others in the region. But, ball snatcher, man. I mean, he can really go get the football. He's got good size, probably 6'3.5", 205, 210 pounds. He gets off the line pretty quick as well for that size. He's a guy that I think as more schools see him, they will like him. He's one of those guys too. If he goes to an Under Armour camp and posts in which are slow, if you run in a sub 4.65 at Under Armour camp, you're actually really fast by the numbers, being part of those for years. If he goes out and runs a low 4.6 at 205, 210 pounds and throws a 4.2 shuttle, 4.25 shuttle at the board, he'll get more national offers. But really good player, really good player.
Okay, and then we'll get some more here. Let's see. Oh goodness, my mouse will cooperate. Let's take this one from Isaiah Stewart. Jerry, will we ever take a look at wide receiver Tristan Keys? And do y'all think we need more of a footprint in Mississippi?
Haven't heard anything on Tristan Keys. Doesn't mean Texas doesn't like him behind the scenes. But I haven't heard that. I think the out-of-state guys that have Texas's eye, Chris Henry, but that's a pipe dream. But Caden Dixon-White at Mater Dei, Naeem Burrows, the speedster at Bowles, Jabari Mack from Destrehan is going to be in Austin this weekend, or scheduled to be. We'll see. A couple of those guys won't show. A couple of guys that will show you weren't expecting. And then Aaron Gregory, the A&M commit out of Douglas County, Georgia, is a guy Texas really likes. And Chris Jackson is next week, I believe, is going to go see Naeem Burrows, go see Aaron Douglas, and go see a couple of other out-of-state guys. They went and saw Caden Dixon-White last week. But really, those are the guys out of state that we're hearing the most about right now. But as far as Mississippi, interesting area to recruit. I mean, of any state I've ever covered, Bobby, those high school coaches protect their in-state schools. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, more than any other state I've ever been in. Like Bobby sent me to go see Chris Jones in high school. And I went down to Houston County, and it was an all Mississippi State guys on that staff. And they literally were hiding him from other colleges. And they weren't real thrilled that I went down there that day. We were all at 24/7 at the time, then came back and ranked him number 2 in America. I don't think they're real happy about that, because then Alabama and everybody else started trying to get in on him. And, there's some old urban legend stories about cops pulling over Alabama coaches and sending them back across the state line years ago. I mean, that's a different state to recruit in. They try to keep their guys in state at all costs, Bobby, and it's tough to do.
It is tough to do, especially as Huddle's gotten more pronounced. Yeah. We've talked about the influence of Huddle on certain states and their availability to others. Like the big thing back in the 90s was if you were a college coach and you had imperfect information, because some schools just wouldn't send you, some high schools wouldn't send you their videotape back to you. They would just say, nah, we want him to go to Arkansas. If you were in East Texas, if it was a East Texas coach and he was an Arkansas fan, he just wouldn't send the tape in.
Yeah.
And so your head coach could never make the call on whether or not a guy was good enough, right? So you were always dealing with imperfect information. That happens. And Mississippi is a great state for talent, no doubt about it. Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, all of those. Texas could always use more more players from that area. Tremendous talent. But I think that what they're doing right now, Jerry, is pretty smart. They're doing it a little piecemeal. You have to go into Georgia and Florida first if you're going to go into the Deep South, because those have the volume of numbers.
Yes.
And Georgia can't take them all. And Florida and Florida State and Miami can't take them all. That's good. Now you go into North Carolina, I think is another great state to recruit, because frankly, it's a basketball state. And North Carolina State care more about basketball than they do football. Same with Duke. And so it's a state that you can go in and, have an impact on. It's a smart play a little bit. And now over time, will Texas morph into Mississippi and that's where Alabama, maybe we'll see. And I want to say this, they had success with KJ Lacey down in Mobile, which is not, Alabama is more in North Alabama. University of Alabama is more in North Alabama. So Mobile's south.
And North Carolina is similar to Mississippi in that regard, what Bobby's talking about. In Mississippi, the problem with recruiting a lot in Mississippi is you may have to go drive an hour and a half from one school to the other. So your days are cut really short and thinned out. In North Carolina, like all the guys that Texas offered yesterday were all in that Charlotte area. But when you start going east, Research Triangle, east of the Research Triangle, where a lot of the great D linemen and prospects from that state have come from, it's 2-hour drives from school to school. Greenville's way out there, like if you go out there where East Carolina is. So, and then you got to go all the way out to Havelock and those areas that have produced some of the best players in the state. So if you send a coach out there and you have limited days on the road, the problem is you almost have to recruit the Charlotte areas that kind of feed in the Rock Hill, South Carolina, that are really talented, and not all the way east in the North Carolina, because you just don't have enough time. You don't have enough time. And then with the NCAA now, you don't have enough days on the road. And I mean, as much as these guys are working, it's hard. You can spend a whole day in Havelock to Greenville to go see 2 or 3 kids. That's what makes it difficult. And Mississippi's the same way, because a lot of those kids are spread out around that state. You could go Gulfport to Jackson and up into a different area, and your whole day's gone seeing 2 or 3 guys.
All right, Jerry, before we move on, let everyone out there know about one of your favorite products, Gooder.
You know who had the Gooders on last night? Vic Schaefer, baby. It was sunny at the end of that game. Silas Sunnies starting at only $25 a pair. No slip, no bounce, all polarized and all fun. It's a 1-year warranty. If you need it, you won't. 30-day free returns. They give me things to read just because I have to now. But they're high-performance sunglasses designed to make you feel like the best athlete of all time. I love that because I'm not, but I feel like I am when I wear these sunglasses. All 3 frames have UV 400 polarized lenses, the Bolt G, the Bug G, and the Astro G. If you want to support the show and try a pair, Gooder is giving On Texas Football, all caps, listeners free shipping. You could go to gooder.com/OnTexas and use that code OnTexas for free shipping. Gooder offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. I have to read that, and 100% satisfaction, I guarantee. Again, that's gooder.com/OnTexas. Use that code OnTexas. And Blake, those Gooder UT glasses are the ones, but I hear they're sold out.
Whoa!
Hey, you have a good product when they're always sold out.
They are sold out online, but some of the shots around the stadium, I do have them because I saw them in there. I think it was during the Clemson game.
Yeah,
that's strong. Those are strong. You got to have style to pull those off, Jerry.
Next time we have Coach Schaefer on, we need to say, hey, the next time you beat like a top 5 team at home, just have those, like have your assistant hold them or somebody, and you just put them on when you walk off the court. Put them on after the handshake line. You put on your glasses and walk off the court.
He's got enough smooth. He can pull that off. Mm-hmm. He can pull that off.
Actually, the whole team should just put them on, walk off the court.
Hey, by the way, he's got some good sunglasses because he goes fishing.
Yes.
If you go fishing in the bright morning, you got to have those sunglasses.
Speaking of Vic Schaefer, we have a super chat regarding his team from Seth. Jerry, do you think this Texas women's team is getting into a great flow? South Carolina seemed to be the wake-up call and an outlier performance-wise.
Yeah, I'm the same on them. And they're really, really good. Could be a Final Four team, right? But they're going to be so matchup dependent. And I know some people think, we'll have to match up with them. But when I watch the Texas women's team, they have a great player in Maddie Booker, a top 3 pick, right? So if she has a big game offensively, she can carry. They're good in the post. Roy Harmon's a really good point guard. Shea Holly's a great defensive player, one of the better role players. I love Jordan Lee, the freshman. She's going to be a really good player, can really shoot it. If they come up against a team that plays a zone and they don't, they won that game last night with 1-3.
Yes.
One made 3 against South Carolina. There's going to come a point in time in the NCAA tournament where a team you're playing to have a couple of guards like NC State, they're just really hot, and you're going to have to match them. And you're going to have to match them on the perimeter. You're going to have to make more than 1 3. You're going to have to take more than 5 or 6 threes. I mean, tip of the hat to Vic for scoring 80 points with 1 made 3. But I do think at some point that game's going to be there in front of them. Somebody that plays a zone like a Notre Dame did who can score on the other end. How many threes can you make in that game? That's really going to tell you. But I think he is close to maximizing what this team is. I'll say that. Now, what this team is, do they lack just that ability to go make 11 or 12 threes in a game they have to in a Final Four game or something like that? If they lose, that could be that type of matchup for them. But I think Vic's doing a great job. And that's why everybody say that. Then Aaliyah Chavez enters the chat immediately when I say that every time.
And she should, because that's maybe the piece they're missing at some level. You mentioned that last night Texas women's 1 of 6 from 3, while
Tennessee made 9.
9 of 17.
Kept them in the game.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And so Jerry's point is, if you were just picking a basketball team and there was no 3-point line, Texas would have beat maybe Tennessee by 7-8 points.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to hit sometimes to keep pace. That's what happened last year in the Elite Eight. NC State got so hot.
Yeah.
And you just can't keep pace if you're trading your 2 for their 3.
True. Look, Aaliyah Crump is a really good player, top 5 girl, top 10, top 5 ranked girl in the country out of Minnesota, 6'1" guard, really good player coming in next year.
All right, let's take some more. Actually, I got a question for you, Jerry, regarding Junior Day. Tell us a little bit about the offensive linemen that are going to be in attendance.
Really good group. John Turntime, we mentioned, is not going to be in. He has a family event, but he's been to Texas so many times. He has 2 sisters attending college in the area in Austin, one at Texas and one at Houston-Tillotson. He'll be back on campus February, March, whatever, and that recruitment's going to play out through official visits. Texas, Kyle Flood was by there. Texas remains in a good spot. A&M is going to fight there as well, along with some others. He'll go visit Georgia and a couple other places, I believe. But there are really good offensive linemen coming in. Felix Ojo, offensive tackle from Lake Ridge. We watched his tape yesterday. He's coming in Saturday. Max Wright from Melissa, I think one of the most improved offensive linemen in that class from sophomore to junior year. He went to Plano West his freshman year, transferred over to Melissa, family moved over to Melissa. His sophomore, if you want to watch a tape where a guy's really improved athletically, watch his sophomore huddle and then watch his junior huddle back to back, and you'll see the significant change for Max Wright. And he's 6'7", 310. He'll be on campus Saturday. Nicholas Robertson, the guard from Klein, will be on campus Saturday. Then you have other guys in the DFW area. Toa Katoa will be on campus with his family Saturday from Euless. And then you'll have Zayden Crimpin, the guard center from Prosper. He plays tackle at Prosper, but he's going to be a guard center at the college level. He'll be on campus. And all these guys are picking up offers right and left right now when college coaches come through and see him. Kyle Flood was at all their schools. He was at Klein last Friday to see Nicholas Robertson. He's been up in DFW seeing all those guys early this week. Kyle Flood also made a trip out to Tyler Legacy yesterday to see one of the top 2027s, Demarion Johnson, who will be in town Saturday as well. I mean, he is a big-time guy. He's about 6'6", 300 pounds, 305, plays for Bo Trahan at Tyler Legacy. So a couple of 2027s will be in as well. But the 2026 line class in-state is really, really, really good. And the question is going to, again, it's kind of what we've talked about is, like, if you go back to last year's class, Lamont Rogers and Michael Fasusi both wanted to play left tackle. They weren't going to go to the same school. So how are the tackles going to shake out in-state in 2026? Turntine obviously is a left tackle at the college level, and he's going to be a great player. Felix Ojo plays left tackle. Max Wright plays left tackle. Who's open to playing right tackle? Because if all 3 of those guys said, I'm playing left tackle no matter what, then all 3 of those guys are going to go to different schools. Who's going to be open to playing right tackle or left tackle? That's going to be the question. And I think that's going to be a deciding factor in which 2 tackles end up at Texas in this class.
It's okay. And then another one, Jerry, and I know you've kind of answered this off and on this week, but it's 420 somewhere. Are you expecting any commitments this weekend?
I'm not ruling it out. I'm not ruling out a public commitment this weekend. I'll say that. I definitely think there's going to be 2 or 3 guys that tell the Texas staff, hey, I'm going to be at Texas. And Sark's like, look, this is how this goes. If you want to commit to us and you're done with the process, we'd love to have you. If you're going to continue on, we want you to be 100% sure. You tell us you're coming, hey, we'll keep it between us, and you're going to go through your official visit process, go through the June official visit process and make your decision before your senior year. You could see 2 or 3 guys tell Texas in that scenario this weekend, hey, man, I'm going to be a Longhorn, but I'm also going to go through this process. And Sark wants those guys to go through the process. He doesn't push to get guys committed just to have them committed, and then 2 months later they're sitting there taking 4 other official visits. That's just not the way he plays the game. So I don't disagree with him on that. Make sure these guys are where they want to be. You don't just take commitments. Kids start backing out, in and out all the time. So if somebody comes out publicly and commits, which I'm not ruling it out, then they're done. They're done with the process, barring the unforeseen.
There are guys, by the way, already in Austin and arriving today for tomorrow's junior day. So this is, although it is a one-day event for the university and for Steve Sarkisian, they'll actually have some guys probably stop by late tonight.
Bell and his family, for one.
You get my point. So we are focused primarily on Saturday morning and into Saturday afternoon. Jerry will be there. CJ will be there. Jeff Howe will be there for us as well. And we'll have reports for you guys on Texas football all weekend long. But it starts today, actually, guys, this afternoon, really, more than anything.
Somebody's asking about the shirt. Bobby, you're wearing the same thing, the 40 Acres Apparel on Texas football shirt. Somebody wants one of those. Hey, Daryl Klein, I don't know. That's up to Bobby on that.
Thank you to 40 Acres Apparel for making these for us. They were kind of ad hoc. They were just for us to use as official gear when we're going around to high schools or at press conferences, etc.
Best callers in the game, man.
They really are.
Free read for 40 Acres Apparel. Best caller in the game. Rod Babers says it all the time.
Yeah, I agree.
Someone else.
420 somewhere asking no camping out at the airport to see Rise. Not on this. Not on this one today, but this summer, absolutely.
Someone else that we need to say thank you to one more time, Bobby, is BKCW, and I'm going to let you do that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. All season long, you've heard us talk about how Longhorn-owned BKCW helps you escape the insurance trap. You know the drill. Renewal time rolls around. You scramble for quotes and end up stuck with a higher price that you can't do much about. BKCW strives to break that cycle for you and your business. They equip you with a wide variety of tools and a dedicated risk consultant to save you time and make your employees safer and show insurance carriers that your business is a good fit. They'll dive deep into your past claims, assess risk, deploy tools to make your company safer. Then they'll bring you the most competitive options available. With BKCW, the goal is simple: help make you and your employees safer so you can save money and hopefully experience fewer claims. If you want to learn more about what BKCW can provide you and your business, go to bkcw.com or send an email to info@bkcw.com to get started and get the support you deserve. You deserve. Info@bkcw.com, 512-250-5055. That's bkcw.com, the leader in business insurance there in Austin.
I got
Jeff Carey, that was making a big return next week. We're past the semifinal loss. We're bringing it back out. Max asked, what do you think of A&M's 26 class so far? This is kind of the opposite of the way Sark's going about it. A&M is trying to get guys on the commit list and hang on for dear life. They got 3. And I say hang on for dear life. A&M, I've said the same thing about A&M in Texas since NIL became a thing. They should both sign top 10 classes every year. They are set up for it. To me, there's no excuse. If you're not doing it, you didn't hire the right coach, in my opinion. So A&M, they got 3 guys committed from Georgia, 2 guys committed from California. They have really good players committed in their class. They have to fight to hold on to them. Those 2 kids from Aaron Gregory and Jordan Carter from Douglas County, Georgia, those are going to be hard guys to hang on to for them. Not saying they can't, and if they do, it's going to turn up aces for them come December 4th. But all those kids, they have 10 commitments right now. I'll be surprised if they don't lose a couple of those guys throughout the process. But that's kind of the game, is if you can get 15 really good players in the boat early, you're just playing the numbers game. If you lose 3, Bobby, you can live with it.
They're not going to lose 3, though. They're going to lose half.
Potentially. We'll see.
No, they are. I mean,
they did well in California, though, last year. They kept those.
They did well, but they lost the number 1 guy.
Yeah.
They lost the quarterback.
Yeah.
At the last minute to USC. I mean, that's why they scrambled late at quarterback. I mean, yeah. I agree that it's a numbers game, Jerry, to some degree, but I like where Texas sits and being more prudent. I think that I will say this, it causes more consternation of Texas fans being patient like that, because you're like, why aren't we all of a sudden dominoing sooner? I actually think you will see some more of that this year because Texas has a little bit more leverage in that regard with the players they want to have leverage with, as opposed to just guys that they can get in the boat. That's ultimately what Sark is concerned with. I mean, Sark wants to make sure he's getting the very best players possible, regardless of when they commit, Jerry.
Yeah.
So that's all. We'll see. I mean, look, A&M's, to Jerry's point, they're playing a numbers game.
Yeah.
We'll see if it works out for them. But if they have 10 and they're really at 5, that can make you struggle late, which is what happened to them last year at quarterback. I'm just telling you that it can end up hurting you more by leaving you a hole late.
All right, this will be our last one for today. Thank you for the super chat, Jackson. Outside of wide receiver and running back, what's going to be the fiercest position battle in the spring and fall camp?
Dude, guard, center, guard, man. Look, Cole Hudson has playing experience. DJ Campbell has playing experience. A lot, both of them. Okay, one of them's going to be guard. Cole Hudson's going to try to win the center position. If he doesn't win the center position, you think he's going to win the other guard spot. So who all does that affect? Not just DJ Campbell and Cole Hudson. It's Connor Robertson, Daniel Cruz, Nato Umeozulu, potentially Nate Kibble.
Yeah, those are your guys.
I mean, so you're talking about potentially 4 guys going for one available spot there. And there are a number of permutations on how that can end up based on whether or not Hudson makes it at center or it goes back to guard. Now, we'll see. But that's a lot of moving parts for Kyle Flood to try to figure out. I really think it's guard, center, guard. Jerry, what do you cornerback? Maybe, but
potentially, yeah. I mean, potentially, yes, because you lose Barron and Gavin Holmes. So where is Kobe Black going into year 2? Where is Santana Wilson coming off a redshirt year? Because we've heard it went really well for him. Does Jalen Gilbo move around?
Warren Robertson.
Yeah, Warren Oberson. And then you have all the freshman guys coming in. So I think and all the freshman guys, I mean, Cade Phillips, Caleb Chester, and Grayson Littleton, who's a corner nickel. Then you have Wardell Mack. Does he stay at nickel? Does he get looks at corner? There's a lot to figure out. There's a lot that has to play out at corner nickel as well. Because what if Jalen Gilbo practices some at corner this spring? And I'm not saying he is, but look, what does it hurt to do it a little bit in spring practice? Give it some looks.
Yeah, roll it out there a little bit.
Yeah.
It worked so well for Jahdae Barron last year. I mean, why not? Why not?
I wanted to answer David Keith Williams' question. You have to bring it up. Yeah, I do think Max Wright is more of a right tackle.
That's the young man out of Melissa. Is that right?
Yeah.
Up in Dallas.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football presented by BKCW. I want to thank them along with Rocket Money, Mando, and Gooder all for sponsoring today's show. Thank you all for tuning in. The great questions, the super chats. Hope you all have a great weekend. But, Bobby, what do you have to hold people over through the weekend?
Oh, well, I mean, we've got a bunch. I tell you what, this afternoon we got a 1 o'clock Longhorn live stream. Myself, Rod Babers, Jerry Hamilton going to be talking there. Then we've got Junior Day. It's here. It's like I said, they're coming in this afternoon, early evening. That'll be a big piece of it. Then tomorrow morning, it starts early. Jerry and the gang are going to be out there over at the IM Fields. That's where they park and then take shuttles into campus. So we'll be there early and often tomorrow, as well as later today with more Junior Day stuff. Also, don't forget, I don't want to forget this. Our friend Adam Lowy is giving away tickets to the Texas A&M basketball game for Saturday. Make sure it's on Twitter. All you have to do is go to his Twitter account and tell him why you think you need tickets to this game and why you deserve them. Again, it's a 1:30 tip versus A&M. If you're in Austin, get out there, see if you can't help Longhorns. Rodney Terry and his group absolutely need it right now, Jerry. They need Moody to be rocking. I do think that the student population will be out for this, which will help. Yes. I mean, it's always so hard in basketball in the months of late December to early January because students aren't there. So you literally lose 3,000 or 4,000 people in your audience that are just at home, right? So hopefully the Moody is rocking on Saturday. If you want free tickets potentially, reach out to Adam there as well.
Sarah O in the chat says Pete Carroll has been hired by the Raiders. Does that come across the wire?
That's look. I have not seen that one, so let me see what I can find out. Stay tuned. All right. Well, we'll be back on Monday morning. Hope you all have a great weekend. And for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.
Welcome. Let's get some